gaming mysteries are a timeless thing. I think that's why I've always been fixated on them, despite how many years have passed since that initial crazy rush. To me, they are no different than the mysteries of our world, not knowing what took place in the past and forever speculating on the mysteries they contain. The only difference to me is that anyone can access them. A digital world can be replicated across our world, retaining the same instanced mystery for everyone to experience. That's not something real-world mysteries offer, even if the comparison seems silly to some of you. To me, I'll always be living off the glory days and riding off that sense of nostalgia for the unknown components to my favorite games. And that's exactly what we'll be covering today. The story of how the world thought Luigi could be unlocked in Super Mario 64. Across the history of my channel, which is heavily focused around gaming mysteries, I've avoided talking about this one for quite some time. Perhaps I thought it was already oversaturated on the web, or maybe I was just fixated on trying new, strange things in games. But let's be real, L is real. One of the biggest, if not the biggest, gaming conundrum for the Nintendo 64. I would say this rivals collecting the Triforce in Ocarina of Time, if not pushes past it. Super Mario 64 was a game that opened up 3D exploration for a lot of people. As kids, we already loved Mario, but being able to move Mario in any direction we wanted was mind-blowing. Regardless of how people critique the game, it's going to be forever frozen in our minds as one of the most perfect things ever, even if that's not actually true. And encased in this timeless world is a mystery that drew people from all over to the castle courtyard to stare at a stone statue of a star. Thinking of that visual is kind of mind-boggling too. In 1996 to 1998, imagine how many people gathered collectively across the world to stare at this statue. It could have been 2 AM on a weekend night, yet across the world thousands of Marios were still standing there, perplexed by a single texture. Obviously, I love overthinking games, but that's quite a powerful visual. So looking back at this mystery, it's interesting to see how it evolved. Obviously, at the time we were all on wild goose chases, either trying to decrypt what the message said, or trying silly things that other kids would lie about saying it unlocked Luigi in the game. Every school had different rumors, and honestly, if they were all documented, pretty much every level would have had multiple ways to unlock Luigi in it. But all of this was still fueled by the unreadable message. And unreadable messages in video games are quite a common thing, honestly. Regardless of the time period, people have always tried their best to figure out blurry text. It's a shame that textures are designed at higher resolutions, and then shrunken down to save memory space in order to have the game fit on the cartridge or disc. I had the same issue years later in Phantasy Star Online, where an employee from Sega wrote an unreadable message on a dungeon floor tile that was replicated throughout the entire level. No idea what it says, but at some point this text was larger and readable, before it was shrunken down and compressed. Recently, in a modern sense, we had this with Spirits modes for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Blurry text was presented online, but people took up the charge with upscaling and recreating the letter structures to reveal that the hidden mode was called Spirits. The big problem with L is Real, among other gaming mysteries, is that a lie or rumor told long enough eventually becomes the truth. I mean, I certainly didn't mind the thrill of the hunt at all, but we were all just kids, continually stirring the pot with no real way to connect with the outside world. Some people had internet access, but most of us didn't. The clues and the truth were just out of reach, and this caused the cycle to continue on and on. A big factor in not realizing that this message probably didn't mean anything surfaced in The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. I'm not sure if it was because the game was built upon Mario 64's original engine or what, but this L is Real 2401 message, or as some people read it, Eternal Star, was actually used within Ocarina of Time as a readable sign in Dodongo's cavern. But the thing is, because the sign was readable and actually had text associated with it, lots of us didn't connect the dot that we're looking at the same message just in a different game. Perhaps if this message was unreadable, we actually would have paid more attention to it, since it would have lacked an explanation. But most of us just read it and moved on, because we perceived it as background noise. It's certainly interesting to see how the player's experience can be shaped completely different with textures of words. This garbled text was more than likely just a developer's way of filling the space, sort of how web designers utilize lorem ipsum, which is essentially filler text used to fill out designs so they can see how they look. And it turns out years later, we might actually have an answer about that. December 2nd, 2016. A little over 2.5 years ago, a letter makes its way to Reddit from user Bond18T in the retro gaming subreddit, with the image blowing up further in r/Nintendo. It turns out, as a child, this user wrote a letter to Nintendo inquiring about the L is Real message. This letter is dated May 7th, 1998, prior to Ocarina of Time's release, and reads as follows. Dear Redacted, I appreciate having the opportunity to assist you with your gameplay. In your letter, you asked why the L is real message is on the statue in Super Mario 64. Many people think it's a hint that Luigi is in the game, and it has something to do with a special code. The real answer is that the programmers put it there as a joke. They thought people would try to figure out what it means. It doesn't have any meaning at all. Now, this letter came from a gameplay counselor from Nintendo. While some may say this solves the mystery since a Nintendo representative themselves stated so, that doesn't mean this person actually knows either. They're in the customer service department, which probably has hundreds of people in it given the size of Nintendo. Beyond that, reaching out to another department for an answer like this probably won't happen. In massive companies, communications like that can be rare. And the only communication that the customer service department is doing with the developers is probably only bug-related issues. Now mind you, they weren't rolling out updates or anything like we do today, but some stuff did get fixed over time. Ocarina of Time is a good example that has certain exploits get fixed in future versions, like the sortless link glitch I covered in my video where I tried to touch the moon. So even if this was supposed to be some sort of message, I don't think we can take this person's response as the end-all be-all. To make things worse, it didn't help that photoshopped images were appearing in magazine ads and the like. Take these photos from user TRJ22487 over on Nintendo Age. These were taken from the March 1998 issue of Electronic Gaming Monthly, which features what appears to be Mario and Luigi in Super Mario 64. Mind you, this was in anticipation for Super Mario 64 2, which is labeled just as Super Mario 2 here. I never saw this as a kid, but knowing this and other doctored images probably existed added more mystery to everything, especially in the mind of a child. So while the sequel may have planned to have Luigi as a playable character, Luigi wasn't found in Super Mario 64. Whether he was intended to be and was scrapped is unknown, but the hunt is something we certainly won't forget. Interesting enough, Super Mario Odyssey's throwback to this area takes us straight to the statue again, if we wear the classic Mario 64 outfit. Doing so allows us to unlock a star from within the statue, which I kind of feel brings a bit of closure to the whole thing. It's Nintendo's way of acknowledging our obsession, although they certainly egged people on over the years through subtle clues in Nintendo power. L is Real 2401, or Eternal Star as some read it, is always going to be one of the most profound, bizarre mysteries the world of Mario will ever have. Truthfully, something like this probably won't ever happen again, and that's kind of sad to think about. With today's technology, people can dump games and search through their contents with ease, even opening up games in a 3D editor to see a developer's perspective. Any secrets and mysteries will be thwarted and rumors will never take place. I guess that's really something only the legacy of the Nintendo 64 and earlier systems will contain. A time that will never be replicated, but also never forgotten. This mystery was everything to me, so I hope you enjoyed this retrospective. But now that I've shared my thoughts, what were your experiences with L is Real? What's your story? Let me know in the comments below. And with that, thanks for tuning in for this trip down memory lane. If you love gaming mysteries and discoveries, why not consider subscribing and checking some other videos out? Anyways, thanks for watching guys and gals, and until my next video, cheers.